Hey, let me just welcome you all here to our little chat. My topic today, discouragement. Something every one of us faces at one time or another, especially as leaders. You know, so many times in our life that things happen in our lives, whether it be a daily, something happens a day, something happens for a period of time. But we seem to take things like discouragement and we allow them to spiral us downward because we make choices in our life. Most of the time our choices is, hey, I don't want to be discouraged. Okay, then let's figure out how are we able to move forward without being discouraged. When something comes our way that spirals us, how do we get control? How do we get back in charge? How do we get back so we can move forward and do the things that we need to do in our lives? I kind of titled this talk, Becoming a Matador of Discouragement. Those of you probably haven't been to a bullfight, but you've seen bullfights. And in a bullfight, you've got the matador, and he's got the big cape, and as the bull's trying to get to him, he's stepping side to side and avoiding the bull. So I kind of titled this talk today, the Become a Matador of Discouragement. And one of the things that we need to do with discouragement when it comes our way is we need to look within and figure out what it is exactly. Because sometimes I think that there can be circumstances and different things that are affecting us. But a lot of times I think if we can just start to figure out what it is exactly, what is the thing that's really caused the discouragement? You may wake up one day and you find yourself discouraged. Maybe it's over a financial thing. Maybe it's over a situation with your kids. Maybe it's over a situation with your spouse. You know, just a situation that's there and something that's come up that causes discouragement in our lives. And you know, for each of us, we need to learn to deal with those and compartmentalize them. What do I mean by that? Well, let me give you an example. If I wake up tomorrow morning and I get a phone call, maybe it has something to do with one of my children, and it becomes a discouragement. Maybe it's something that's happened. Maybe it's something we've had an argument. Just something that's come my way early in the morning. I can compartmentalize that. I can step away from it, and I can begin to study it and say, what about that created the discouragement? What about that got me down? What about that talk? What was it? How do I fix that? How do I go back and deal with that? Because if we'll take charge of those situations, those things that come up, if we just take charge of them and we start to deal with them individually, they don't take us down for the rest of the day. Because I guarantee you that same day, if I wake up with that discouraging thing or something that's affected my attitude, if I wake up with that in the morning, I promise you that things are going to come my way the rest of that day. Maybe 4 other situations are going to come my way that possibly I could find myself back in that discouraging place. But you know what? If I compartmentalize and I stop and I say, okay, let me deal with this situation. Let me take this situation and let me deal with it. Okay? Does it mean a phone call back? Does it mean rethinking it through and calling one of my children back if that's what the situation is? Is it maybe I realize that there's something I can't really do anything about? I have no control over that situation. If I really step back and compartmentalize and take that moment of discouragement and I study it, and I know this kind of sounds crazy because we're emotional beings, but I know as leaders, as people that are growing individually, as people that become better at self-awareness in their own lives, then we need to realize that we can take charge of those situations. But part of it is separating ourselves out. And by separating ourselves out, like I said, we're figuring out, you know what, this situation I have no control over. There's nothing I can do about it. And once I accept that, then I don't spend the rest of the day trying to think of ways to change things. I accept the way it is. So I think part of the discouragement thing is evaluating each one of the things that come our way in our lives and realizing that sometimes we're trying to change things we have no control over. And I know I'm good at that. I'm one of the best at that because I like to be in charge of things. I like to take control of things. If there's a situation I can fix, I'm going to try to go fix it. But there's sometimes things aren't fixable. And certain situations that you have no control over are not fixable in your life. So instead of allowing us to stay in that place and if we have 4 more situations that day, we end up in that situation where we end up 0-5 instead of 4-1, right? Because if the first one got me down and the next 4 don't, I won 4-1. I got 4 situations that I didn't get discouraged in and 1 that I did. You see what I mean? So, admit discouragement. It's easy to ignore it. It's easy to avoid it. It's easy to lie about it. It's easy to deny it, right? Denying discouragement is deadly. Okay, if you deny discouragement, if something happens it does cause you to be discouraged, but we deny it. Oh, that's not going to affect me because I'm a positive person. I'm a leader. I'm out there making things happen. So that very denial is the thing that will disallow us to grow in our lives. Disallow us to move through the discouraging times. So you got to identify the why. Name it. Face it. We allow our emotions to control our lives. And if we go back and we do, I know, and for sanguine personalities, For sanguine personalities, this is difficult. If we're not having fun, we're discouraged. Okay, but a lot of times if I can walk somebody through that and say, where did the discouragement come from? Okay, let's walk back. Is there something you can do about it? Well, maybe not. Okay, well, if there's nothing you can do about it, then we need to move forward in our lives. We need to compartmentalize, control what you can, and accept the rest. We need to recall the nature of the discouragement. Disappointments will come and go, but discouragement is a choice. And I kind of covered that as we started this little talk. Okay, discouragement's a choice. We make that choice in our lives. But the denial is worse. If you ever think you have such an incredible positive mental attitude, you think your mental attitude is so positive and strong, right, that you're not going to get discouraged, then you're living in denial. Because every one of us face that. Because every one of us as leaders will face things that cause us to spiral downward. And a lot of times if we visit it, we start to realize that we're overreacting to something, and it's not even that situation. It's maybe some baggage we've carried. Maybe it's something we've moved forward, something that these hand-me-downs. And so, for most of us, if we can just take some time when something comes our way and does discourage us, if we can take some time to step back and say, what is it about this that's causing that? What is it now? Can I do something about it? Okay, what are the things I can do about it? Do I need to make a phone call back? Do I need to say I'm sorry? Do I need to change something about my life? Do I need to change something about that relationship? If the answer is yes, then I'm going to move forward and do that so that I can eliminate that discouragement in my life. But like I said, there's also going to come to the time where you come to a realization, I can't do anything about that. Because when we try to change other people, a lot of times discouragement comes from relationships. It comes from a relationship that we have with maybe even a spouse or a child or a good friend or a family member, a mom, a dad. We have these situations that come up and we get discouraged in those relationships. I was talking to a coach just recently. We were sitting down talking about how something she's looking for from her mother. She gets discouraged thinking about her mother because she feels like there's things her mother needs to apologize for about her life. And I realized in that conversation that she's in complete bondage because her mother probably is not going to apologize for those things. So I asked her this question, why do you continue to be in this place where you have to seek that apology for you to forgive her? Right? So this is a matter of forgiveness. If you can forgive her, then you won't be looking every day for that person to come to you and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Now, should her mother do that? Absolutely. Were there things in her life that her mom should have done differently? Absolutely. But once again, can I control that? Can I control what that person does? Can you control what that person does who needs to say they're sorry to you? You can't get that forgiven, or you can't you can't make them apologize. But in forgiveness, when you quit searching for that and quit looking for that, we free ourselves up in relationships. It's just like when I worked with men in men's ministry for so long. So one of the greatest hang-ups with men is their relationships with their fathers. And that relationship comes because their fathers did things, they weren't there for them. They never said, I love you. Not all dads, some of them are wonderful, but there were things that should have been done as a father that were not done. I'm reading a great book right now called Healing the Masculine Soul by Gordon Dalbey. I've read it 2 or 3 times before. And you know what? In that book you hear that there's this father wound, or there's this relationship you wanted with your dad. And some of these guys, their fathers are gone, so they're never going to get it. Some of them, their fathers aren't in tune enough with them to even offer it to them. Okay, so that's not going to happen. So now what's your choice? And at the weekends we would finish our weekend with a letter written to their fathers telling them they forgive them. I absolutely forgive you, Dad. And you know what? We do that without expectations. I say, we'd be up in the mountains and we'd make these airplanes, and once we wrote the letter, we'd just send it off the cliff and let it fly away and say, it's gone now. It's over with. I have forgiven that person. So a lot of times in our life, I think our discouragement comes from situations we have no control over. But sometimes we do. Because if we'll step back and quit expecting something from that person that they're incapable of giving you, and go ahead and forgive anyway, then the whole idea of discouragement will change in your life. And you'll free yourself up to be able to move forward. I want to read a great quote by C.S. Lewis. I'll pull it up in my book here. It says this: discouragement, the most effective tool in derailing the human spirit. Let us exchange our emotional, mental, and circumstantial discouragement with the encouragement we have in the presence of God. Let me read that again. Discouragement, the most effective tool in derailing the human spirit. Let us exchange our emotional, mental, and circumstantial discouragement with the encouragement we have in the presence of God. Right? So realize that we're all going to face discouragement. But if we can step back, and first of all, we can look at the true value or the true what happened. And we can look at it almost as an out-of-body experience. And I know, again, we're all emotional beings. It's hard to do that. You're in the middle of an emotional situation that causes discouragement. But if we can learn to become that mentally strong, and we can learn that denial is not the answer. For us to say we're positive, if you're just positive enough, that's not going to affect you. If you're just positive enough, you're not going to get discouraged. That's absolutely untrue. The positiveness of your life is the recovery. The fact that you choose to be positive, you choose to recover, you choose to move forward in your life and not stay where you are. But at the same time, facing it and realizing it's true, it's reality, gives us and then we gain the tools, like what we're talking about right now. Hopefully maybe just some tools I give you over the last 10, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. Some tools to be able to start to take those things when they come your way. And take the passion of your life and take the desire that you have to live in relationships. You're a relational being. You'll be in relationships most of your life. Those are the things that mostly cause discouragement in our lives. So how do we deal with them? A lot of you that are watching this right now are building a big relational marketing business. This is a tool you need to get. You need to become a matador of discouragement. You need to be able to move it aside, deal with it, face it, use whatever circumstances you need to, but don't go out at the end of the day end up 4-1. Allow yourself, or 1-4. Allow yourself to go up there and at the end of the day, realize that I can take control, and I can take discouragement, and I can deal with it, I can face it, and I can own it, but then I'm going to do the things I need to do to move it aside so that I can go on and have an effective day, effective week, and even for a lot of us, an effective life. So those people in your life right now that are causing discouragement, maybe they're family members, maybe those that don't support you in your business. Okay, all of these people, you have no control over them. So quit trying to control them. Realize that in forgiveness, in saying that they're who they are, they deal with their own issues. I'm not going to allow what they're doing, what they're saying, the way they treat me to affect my life, because I want to be stronger than that. And then realize that you can be derailed by discouragement. But just understand that forgiveness really comes from knowing God. And in that relationship, you understand what true forgiveness is. So thanks for letting me chat with you today. Go out there, become a matador of discouragement.